Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today, we're going to be taking another look at Transformers EarthSpark, and in this episode, we are going to be looking at Megatron's motivations. There will be spoilers through season 1, episode 10, so you have been warned. If you don't want any spoilers, you can click away from this video by checking out the links below the video to get yourself a copy of my short science fiction anthologies, my anthology of short science fiction stories. Humans Are Weird. I have the data. All right, let's take a look at Megatron. So in Transformers EarthSpark, what is Megatron's deal? Megatron shows up on the scene and is not only calm with Optimus, Megatron is actively friendly with a human, Dorothy Malto, the main hero character. So, what's going on? What is Megatron's deal? Look, I'm more than willing to be convinced that Megatron is on the straight and narrow. I love me a good redemption story. I overall enjoyed the IDW comic storyline. But in this show, this Transformers EarthSpark is essentially a soft reboot / continuation of G1. So this is G1 Megatron we're talking about. Megatron was deceptive. Yes, he might have had noble goals originally, but he's long gone down the path of a tyrant. He will do anything to achieve his goal. His goal is power and control, not whatever he claims it is. So clearly, Megatron is playing Optimus. We learn later on in the show that Megatron swore an oath to a fealty to Optimus, which was probably worded very carefully. We don't actually hear the oath after all, with the intention of preventing a long war of attrition on Earth that Megatron couldn't hope to win with his Decepticons, and preserving his Decepticons well-fed and reasonably safe until they could reestablish communications with Cybertron. Now, this is all me looking at everything I know about G1 Megatron and projecting that on this Megatron, which seems fair because this is the G1 world for all intents and purposes. So, on this world, the space bridge was destroyed, and Shockwave never reestablished space bridge communications with Earth. That's the main difference. And Optimus never died in the attack on Autobot City. So, those are the two main differences. Optimus is still here. You're limited to the Decepticons and Autobots that were on Earth in the initial crash, and the space bridge has been destroyed. So, leaving the Transformers stranded on Earth. Now, even with all of that, even with this Megatron being an extension of G1 Megatron, scheming, duplicitous G1 Megatron who craves power, I might have just accepted that this show is writing Megatron different. There are a certain number of differences we're going to accept, and Megatron's reform, it shows up really early on. So this might just be one of the assumptions that this show is demanding we make for the sake of the story. It's been done with Starscream often enough in previous iterations of the franchise. And like I said, the IDW comics do go there. But this show is very well written. Little scenes mean things. And we have gotten hints of Megatron's true intention. After that whole situation with Soundwave, when Optimus and Megatron are discussing leadership styles, Optimus smiles at Megatron and says, "Perhaps you are coming to appreciate my leadership style." And then Optimus turns and walks away. And Megatron just gives this smirk that really does look like Megatron just pulled something over on Optimus. And this all follows the situation where Soundwave attacks Megatron very deliberately. Soundwave, one of the most loyal of the Decepticons, attacks Megatron and very dramatically calls him a traitor. Now, the acting in this show is good, with a few exceptions for the child characters. The acting in this show is really good. And Soundwave looked like he was acting. Now, what do I mean by that? When an actor is acting, you don't think that's good acting. You think, oh, this character is really interesting. Soundwave was slightly dramatic, slightly stentorious, over the top. Soundwave really looked like he was acting in that scene. And Megatron didn't. But Megatron is canonically a far, far better actor, a better liar than Soundwave. And if you look at, you can look at it from two perspectives. Soundwave finding out, somehow discovering what was going on in Ghost and deliberately getting himself captured to break into Ghost's headquarters. But where did Soundwave find out that information? It really does look like Megatron planned that to get Soundwave in. And then when Megatron is capturing Skywarp and Novastorm, two seekers with a history of being wildcards, difficult to control and not very bright, then he says, your freedom is threatening my plans. Not the peace, not Optimus's peace, my plans. So Megatron has plans that the Seekers' actions were interfering with. I'd say the signs are all pretty clear. Megatron, once the space bridge was destroyed, Megatron came up with a long-running plan. He swore fealty to Optimus, lying through his teeth, and claiming truly that he wanted to preserve the race, or at least his Decepticons. Megatron knew that a long, prolonged war on Earth would lead to a war of attrition, and yeah, he might even win, but the cost would be too great. By surrendering to Optimus and allowing the Decepticons to be captured by Ghost, they're kept safe from threats like, other than just the Autobots, you have threats like Mandroid, and the Decepticons that are Ghost do seem to be fairly well kept. They were all standing up and moving around their cells, so they're not being kept on strict starvation rations. They're fed, they're protected, they're safe, they're not dying in combat, they're not starving for a lack of energon. And the cost of harvesting and providing energon is falling on the Earth governments, on the organization of Ghost, and not on the Decepticons themselves. So Megatron has got all of his Decepticons fed, safe, and waiting. Transformers think on a completely different time scale than humans, so that to the humans, that was a generation and a half ago. There's probably not a single general alive who remembers active combat with the Decepticons. And with Ghost being sneaky and not making the conflict publicly available, for the most part, the Cybertronian War has probably faded into the back of people's minds, leaving Earth vulnerable. The Autobots are mostly in hiding, and it appears to be just Optimus and Alita that routinely show up to work with Megatron. So that puts the numbers, the immediately summonable combat numbers, solidly on the Decepticon side. And this just makes sense to me from everything that I've seen in the show. Megatron is playing Optimus. Optimus almost knows it, but probably doesn't want to accept it. Getting Soundwave into Ghost was a deliberate ploy. Megatron is probably plotting to take over Ghost from the inside and use Ghost as his source of resource gathering. So, that is what I would say. If it weren't for Megatron's relationship with Ranger Malto. You see, this is a children's show, and the characters are all pretty solid archetypes, and Malto is unquestionably the story's hero. The big old hero, the paladin, the character who is usually, if not always, right, and Ranger Malto trusts Megatron. And first off, I can't wait to see how their relationship came about. If my theory is correct, this was probably a deliberate move on Megatron's part, creating a situation or taking advantage of a situation where to gain this human's trust. Because the original G1 Megatron had no respect for human life. He would use humans as necessary, but he kind of even hated doing that. He had that derision for organic life that most of the Decepticons shared. So, when did either Megatron manage to shake off or lose that derision of human life, or at the very least he learned to hide his disgust around humans? And more importantly, Malto is the paladin character. Is a children's show going to let their hero, their paladin, be that wrong about something that important? So, this is a classic situation. You have a villain defeated in a weak spot, and the hero character extends the hand of friendship. Classic Dragon Ball Z moment. Classic Superman moment, classic moment. And Malto in the series is that hero character. Because of the way the series is framed from the perspective of her family, even more so than Optimus in this case. And she extended the hand of friendship to Megatron. Now, traditionally, that is always, in this situation, that's always, the act of extending the hand is always seen as a good thing. But whether or not this was the tactically wise thing in the long run, well, how the show answers that is kind of the dividing line between simplistic, shallowly written children's shows with cheap moral lessons and more complex, mature shows. Because many, many times in life, you are going to extend the hand of friendship in forgiveness to someone who hurt you, and they're just going to hurt you again. That's the reality. But to have civilization work, we have to have people willing to extend that hand of friendship. And a mature show will often have somebody genuinely extend the hand of friendship, knowingly take the risk, and for it not to pay off at all. The person betrays them in the end. And given the quality of the writing that we've seen, I really think we're going to wind up with a situation where Megatron is going to break Ranger Malto's heart. That where Ranger Malto is going to have to face the fact that he used her as a prop to show Optimus that he had changed, to convince Optimus that he had developed a respect for and appreciation of human life. And maybe this was incidental to other things that happened. Maybe this was Megatron's plan from the very beginning. But I just go back to that scene in the episode with Swindle, where Ranger Malto is talking to the kids. She says, "That's different. Megatron has truly changed." No, he didn't. An eons old warlord did not change at the end of between one battle and the next. So, Malto is wrong. Megatron did not change. Megatron, and yet, so look at the scene at the end of the series where Megatron is being captured by an android and Megatron is warning Dorothy to go away. Again, I got that sensation that Megatron was putting on an act, putting on a show, mimicking what Optimus would be doing in that situation. Again, as part of the long-term plan to convince Dorothy and therefore Optimus that he values human life. So the question is, after 30 years of friendship with Dorothy Malto, has Megatron actually come to value human life? When Megatron inevitably betrays her, is there going to be any regrets? Is Megatron going to let bad things happen to Dorothy Malto? Is it going to be one of those things where he has to defend his human friends from Starscream when the plan comes to fruition, when the Decepticons take over Ghost, when they capture Optimus? Remember, in G1 they had chips that could control people's behavior. And even if they don't, the agents of Ghost might be told to turn on Elita, turn on Optimus, turn on Bumblebee if they're given direct orders from above. Or they might have mind control chips put in them. There's 100 different ways that Megatron could take over Ghost. And when that happens, what is going to be Dorothy's fate? And what is going to be the Terrans' fate? Now, obviously, there's the children to be worried about, and the Terrans, and Alex Malto, but the only one with a friendship with Megatron is Dorothy Malto, and so she's the one who's going to be heartbroken. The stakes, okay, this is a children's show. Nobody in the main family is going to die. Megatron's not going to die. Optimus, well, of course he's going to die, but we all know it's not permanent. So the lives of the characters are not what hold the stakes in a show like this. If you want to give a show like this stakes, you have to threaten the relationships. And Dorothy Malto has clearly given her heart and friendship to Megatron. And when Megatron destroys that is a stake. That is something, that relationship is something that absolutely can die in this series. And well, the sadistic author part of me is really, really looking forward to that. But what do you think? Is Megatron sincere in his oath to Optimus? Is Megatron going to be willing to remain under Optimus's control even after they get back to Cybertron? Or is this all a complex plot of Megatron's to get his hands on human resources without having to risk his Decepticons in battle. And how is all of this going to affect Dorothy Malto when the reveal inevitably comes? Tell me what you think. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment below describing what you think is going on here. Go check out my book, Humans Are Weird. Let's work it out. And Humans Are Weird, we have the data. And Humans Are Weird, we took a vote. And peace out, my wonderful viewers.